Okay, so this is going to be for anyone that is interested in getting their sound system to sound better for their DJ gigs. It's going to be if you feel like you want to tune your main speakers better than they already are, especially if you're having trouble with any of your subwoofers. If you feel like your limiter is kicking on too often, or if you feel like just the sound of it in general is not as good sounding as you want. Sometimes it's not necessarily just it doesn't mean that you go out and buy a new subwoofer or a new sound system. It's just that it has to get tuned better, and I'm going to show you how to do that. The other thing is that you can bypass your DJ controller's microphones, the mic preamps, which usually don't sound that great, and the EQs are usually just a high, mid, and low. And you usually can't cut enough out of them in order to make them sound good so that you have enough gain before feedback. So I know a lot of you struggle with that. I know I'd struggled with that before I went this route. And also, if you ever run into a situation where you need to have other vocalists, instrumentalists, guitar players, piano players, and you need to plug them into a sound system, yes, you can just plug them into the back of your speakers, get through the gig, whatever. But this is just sort of an easier and a better way to do it, because I know a lot of us that happens to as well. Sometimes it happens to us last minute, and with a system like this, it makes it really easy to do. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is how to do our connections and what the actual unit looks like itself. So I have my unit cased in this Rockville case, and the reason why I chose this case is because I wanted a deep back to it, because I wanted to store my cables that are going in, out of my main left and right, which are going to my two speakers, and the cable that is going into my subwoofer. And in addition to that, I have stuck in there nice and neat is the power cable, a little extension cord that the QU-PAC is plugged into, and also the power for the Wi-Fi. So you need to create your own Wi-Fi hotspot for this. So I just have an Airport Express. It's pretty easy to set up, and you just plug it into the Ethernet port into the QU-PAC. So that's what the case looks like. So for anybody that has like a really nice DJ setup, everything's all white, or you have one of those like really fancy DJ tables that everybody has now, or even if you have column arrays, this might not be the best solution for you, because you will not necessarily be able to hide this very well. So if you can figure out a way to hide this, then that's great. For those of us like me that just use a blank table with a black tablecloth over it, I just throw this underneath and I don't see it, and all the cables are hidden. So connections wise, let's just talk about how you're going to connect everything into it. So first, you're going to come out of your DJ controller, it's left and right. If you have an XLR left and right, most DJ controllers do with an XLR, then you just want to go into the XLR of the mixer, the QU-PAC, channel 1 and channel 2. If you have RCA outs, if you're dealing with a DJ controller that is maybe not as expensive as one that has XLR outs, then first you want to go into something that's called a DI box, and specifically you want to use a Radial Pro AV2. You come out of your mixer RCA into the DI box, and then out of the DI box, left and right, into channels 1 and 2 of a mixer like this. Then most of our controllers, I know mine does, and most controllers have what's called a booth out. This is basically, this allows you to send another signal, stereo if you wanted to any place else in your environment. Some people are dealing with clubs, so they want to send one mix this way and they want to send another mix over here into this different room. Well, a booth out in this circumstance is actually going to be our subwoofer control. So I'll explain that in a second. We're going to come out of the booth out, and we're just going to come out one. In this case, most booth outs are not going to be XLR out. They're going to be 1/4 inch. So you want a 1/4 inch cable that goes to XLR on the other side. So I'm going to come out of the booth out, just mono, and into channel 3 of the mixer. The reason why I'm just coming out one is because most subs, let's say most bass mixes, most mixes that have bass in them, the bass is going to be right down the middle in terms of its panning. It's usually not going to be panned hard left and hard right. So there's not too many times that you're going to find that you need to musically be mixing or have your subs in stereo, if that makes sense. So in this case, just for this example, we're going to use mono. So I'm going to have one plug come out of the booth out and into channel 3. Then you're going to have a wired microphone, and that's going to go directly into channel 4. So I'm going to be bypassing all of the DJ controller, mic inputs, all that stuff. Okay, we're not going to use any of the DJ controller mic inputs. And then for a wireless microphone, I'm going to plug that into channel 5. So when I show up to a gig, put this on the ground, I just have all of these cables already plugged in to the back of my controller and in my microphone and whatnot. All I have to do is take them out, plug them in. I just use like 10-foot cables because usually this unit is sitting right beneath me, so it's very close to me, so I don't need long cables. Okay, so that's channels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, coming out of the mixer, coming out left and right, you want to go to a left speaker and to a right speaker. But coming out, we have, I believe, 10 auxiliaries channels. They're called auxes. They're also called sends. And the reason why is because you can send whatever you want out of that channel and into where you want it to go. In this case, we're going to take out of channel 9, because that's just what I have it plugged into. Out of channel 9, that's going to be our send. We're going to send that signal to us, to our subwoofer. This is going to allow us to separate, when we start looking at the mixer, how we're mixing our mains versus how we're mixing our subs, and then in turn also how we're mixing our 2 microphones as well. And I'm going to walk you through how to use the app and how to do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up the Q app. Okay, so the first thing that you want to make sure is that your Wi-Fi, you choose your Wi-Fi connection, your hotspot that you've created, and then you open up the QPad app and you see your QPAC right there, and you press connect and you just choose admin. And this is what the screen looks like. There is a lot that goes on with these digital mixers, and they're really difficult to learn at first. I found out of all of the brands, I think that this is the best brand in terms of the Allen and Heath. I like how their preamps sound, and I really like specifically how this app is set up and how easy it is to navigate. So if we look down all of these channels, these are all of our channels that are available to us, okay? It actually has 16 inputs. You're able to do more inputs than that, but that's for a different video. But basically, you just need to be looking at the first 5 for our example right here, okay? So those are all our inputs. We can just slide it with our finger. If we want to click on any of these inputs and we want to do whatever we need to do with them, then we just click on the input with our finger. We can put the fader up and down, okay? So that's the bottom section. The left section right here, all of these buttons, we really just need to see the inputs. And for what we're looking at today, we'll be looking at the custom menu as well. I'll show you that later. Okay, but we really just need that for what we're looking at today. Up on the top, we have channel 4, ducker, gate, parametric EQ, and compressor. So let me go to channel 1 actually. So basically channel 1, that shows us, the only thing that you really need to pay attention to here is the gain. And for me, I have a -5 gain for my main speakers. Or actually for the DJ controller. So as you can see, channel 1 and channel 2 are labeled DJ left, DJ right. That's my controller. That's the mains coming out of my controller left and right, okay? I have those hard panned left and right, as they should be. And let's just take a look at what I'm actually doing. Well, let's actually look at the right side of the page first. So we see the left R is blue, okay? And anytime I press any of these, they're gonna turn blue, okay? Go all the way down. And if we just stay on left right for a second, left right is everything that's coming out of the back of the mixer that we use that left right out of. Okay, that's going to the left speaker and the right speaker. So we're choosing left right, and now we can choose individual channels. So if we just take a look at channel 1 and channel 2, I have those linked. So this green button right here is linked on the right there. So that means that whenever I do something with one, it does it with both. Now, I really don't need to ever touch these, okay? Because the way that I have everything gain staged, I have my master volume on my DJ controller at noon, and then I have my faders and I mix how I mix. This, the way that how much gain that I am pushing out to my speakers from the controller, this is fine. That's where those faders are going to stay. You never touch this, okay? In fact, you don't even really touch your iPad a lot once you have this set up, and I'll show you that. But for sake of setting it up, we're just going to take a look at our mains first and what we're going to do with our mains. So there's our gain. We're not going to deal with ducker. We don't have anything to do with that. We're not going to deal with a gate. We don't need to talk about that. But we do need to deal with, well, not parametric EQ. For this particular last gig that I had, I didn't find that I needed to do anything to the mains. The mains sounded great as they were, at least for their parametric EQ. But if you wanted to, then you could just drag and you can change it and you can pinch it with your finger and you can take things up, you can take things down. You can do this with every single frequency. And then if you don't like that, you can just double tap and you can reset it and it goes back to normal. But for the sake of what we're doing, we're just going to take a look at the compressor. So for the DJ controller and what I'm pushing out of that, I have a very, very slight compressor. I have it going as fast as possible for the attack and the release. And I have the ratio at 5:1 and the threshold. So basically it's just like a very, very mild compressor. So if for some reason I were to jack it up and I was to really push something out of the controller really hard, the compressor in the QU-PAC is going to catch it well before it hits any of my speakers, okay? Any of my speakers limiters, let's put it that way. So that's the DJ left and right. But the thing is that if I go to the right-hand side here, my mains left and right, so what's getting pushed out of the left and right, which in this case is my DJ controller, I'm pushing the DJ controller out of the left and right speakers so that they come out the left and right speakers. I'm going to choose this button over here, and these are my mains, okay? And what's great about this is that your mains have both a parametric EQ and they have a graphic EQ. They also have a compressor as well. So the parametric EQ, I have nothing on it right now, but I showed you before that you could do stuff and you could draw stuff in. It would never be that extreme, but you have it if you need it. The graphic EQ, however, this is where this comes in really handy. These are the main speakers, okay? So what I'm pushing out of the main speakers, whether it be a wireless microphone or whether it be the DJ controller, whatever is getting pushed out of the main speakers has this for a graphic EQ. So I'm telling it, hey, main speakers, I don't want anything that is in this 31 hertz. I don't want anything that is in this 40, okay? So I'm gonna pull it all the way out. And I don't want anything that's in this 50. And then as we get closer up to 100, I start adding a little bit of bass as we get to 100. Now, this is experimental. You could say, actually, I don't want anything up to 125. I want to kill everything up until 125. You could kill all of this and just say, you know what? I just want the mains to focus on everything from 125 and above, and I want the subwoofer to deal with everything from 125 to below. For me, I like to have a little bit of bass coming out of the main speakers. For me, it just sounds fuller. I just don't want all of my bass coming from my sub, but it also depends on the gig and it depends on the room. So you want to use your own judgment as to how you do this. But in a general sense, something like the way that I had it is going to work pretty good, okay? It's like sort of a general gradual lead up like that, okay? So we'll just start with that. I just want to show you anyways what you can do, not necessarily how you should do it. This is just one example. So that is how I have my mains set up, okay? What is getting pushed to the mains, no matter what it is, that's what's happening. If we go back to the DJ controller, left and right, we see that it's all set, okay? We just have a little bit of compressor on it. If we have the in button pushed on, then that means that the compressor is turned on, okay? All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Let's move on to the subwoofer, because this is really important. So the sub, we're gonna click on the sub, and as you can see, this on button right here is not turned on. That's because I do not want anything that I'm doing with the mains being sent to the sub. I want the sub to act as its own independent output, okay? We're gonna call it, in this case, a send, okay? Some people call it an aux as well, AUX. we're going to be sending something that's coming into channel 3. We want it sent out of channel 9. And out of channel 9, I'm going straight into the subwoofer, okay? I just chose 9. You can choose 1 through 10. It doesn't matter which one you choose. But we are now sending a completely separate signal that has nothing to do with the mains, okay? That's why this is great. You're going to be able to dial in your sub exactly how you want it to sound. And you're going to be able to get rid of everything that you don't want in it that is giving you problems. So for all of you that are having problems with your sub is limiting too much, or your sub is, you know, it has a thumpy sound to it, or even if it has too much like mids in it, well, this is going to help you get rid of that stuff and is going to help you focus on what part of the sub is the best part. That's the problem with boxes that come straight from the factory. They're tuned pretty well. You know, I have the EV-EKX series, but they're not tuned perfectly for exactly what we want it, and nor should they be. You really need something like this to have complete control over your sound system. And once I went this route, my sound system, just the way that it sounds and the control that I have on it, it's like absolute night and day. If I could put one of these in every one of your sound systems, every single DJ around the world, I would just be so happy because no one would have any sound issues whatsoever. All right, so let's get back to the sub and how we're going to control it here. So the sub's individual channel, we go up here and we have our gain, and I don't have a parametric EQ on it. I do have a compressor on it, however. Okay, so the compressor is similar to the controller compressor, but this one's just for the sub. And I do have, it's a slight compressor. It's going to hit it, but it's not going to hit it so hard that you're going to hear it compress up and down. And that's called pumping. You don't want to hear like a boom, boom, boom. You don't want to hear the compressor going up and down. You'll digitally hear that, and you don't want it being hit that hard. I'll show you an example on the screen of like how much I'm hitting my compressor, and it's really only about 2 or 3 dB at max. Okay, so if I then go on the bottom right-hand side and I press mix 910, those are my aux or my send channels. I'm sending it on channel 9. So I want to go to mix 910. Don't get 10 all mixed up. It's if you were dealing with a stereo send. In this case, we're just dealing with a mono send, so I have just something coming out of 9 going into the subwoofer, okay? So it's coming into channel 3. So I'm telling the mixer, here's channel 3, but I want you to send on channel 9, okay? Now, the great thing is that channel 9, once I have it selected in the bottom right-hand corner, then right next to it, I click on its master. Okay, that's its master fader. Once I have that selected, now you can see it has its own parametric EQ, its own graphic EQ, its own compressor, okay? So, for a subwoofer, for this particular example, I'm killing everything from 125 up, at least in the graphic EQ, okay? I'm also killing everything in the 31, and then I'm gradually increasing it as we get up to like 50 hertz, and then all the way up to 100. A lot of your bass lives around that 70 and 80 mark, your kick drum and your bass guitar. So that's the point at which I want the subwoofer to shine, and I want everything else taken out of it. The problem with a graphic EQ, however, is that it only takes out 12 dB. If you look at the bottom left of the graphic EQ, it says minus 12. That means it's only taking out 12 dB out of each of those frequencies. So then you want to go up to your parametric EQ. Your parametric EQ then takes out, I'm going to guess, 18 dB or maybe 24. I'm not exactly sure. But you can see now how extreme this parametric EQ looks, okay? You can see it, and I can drag things over if I want to take even more out. I can change it just with my finger. This is just one example where I'm basically taking everything out that is below like 40, okay? I have that curve right there, that green curve. And then I have everything that's out from like 125 and above. And then I'm actually boosting this right here, this blue one. I'm actually boosting it around 70 hertz, let's say about 2, 3, 4 dB, because I actually want the subwoofer to be shining in that area, Okay. Now you may find some venues that you then go to and you use this for your last venue and it's actually too much in that. So then you just pull it down and you just make it like that. Okay. But what's great is that you have the control and it's so easy to do. And the great thing about this too is that I'll just skip ahead here. You have up at the top, you have setup, you have home, and you have scenes, and you have these different things. Well, you can create a scene for every single venue that you're at. So if you want to start with your DJ1 sub scene, okay, and you go to a venue and you pull that scene up, you make any changes that you want to make for that particular venue. Maybe it's a venue that has all, carpet and it just is like super, it just sucks up the bass and you just have to EQ the subwoofer differently. Then you can do that and then save your scene and then title it. And then next time you go to that venue, you then just pull up that scene. You don't have to do it 2 times in a row. That's why this is so great. Okay. So let me go back to the processing screen and the sub, and then we'll just talk about the compressor. Oh no, I think we already did. Yeah, so that's it for the sub. You have your graphic EQ and you have your parametric EQ, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the mains, completely separate. Okay. All right, so now let's move on to the wired microphone. So my wired microphone, I'm on my left, right, in the top right-hand corner. That's blue. So my wired microphone also comes with a parametric EQ, and this is just what I used for this last gig. And the great thing about a mixer like this is that it also comes with these groups right here on the right. So a group is something that you can send individual channels to that gives you even more control for certain things. So if you were an audio engineer and you had 8 vocalists, let's say, you could click all of them like this, you could turn them all on, and you could send them all to group 1, 2. And then group 1, 2 has a master fader and it has other things. And if you want to do something with all of those vocalists all at the same time, you just kill that fader or you do whatever you need to do. And it's easy to control all of them with just the ease of one fader or whatnot. In this case, if we click on 1, 2 and we click on the master for that 1, 2, then on the top left-hand corner, we now have a parametric EQ, which we don't need because we have a parametric EQ on the actual channel itself. But we have a parametric EQ on the actual master for group 1, 2. But more importantly, we have a graphic EQ on it. So not only do we have a graph on the DJ controller, we have a graph on the sub, but we also can have a graph on our wired microphone and our wireless microphone, in addition to parametric EQs. Because like I said, the graph is only taking out 12 dB. You may find a certain frequency, you need more than that. So first you want to do it with the graph, and then you want to dial it in musically with the parametric EQ. So that's what it looks like for the wired microphone. And then if we click on go back to left and right, we go back to the wireless microphone. That's what my wireless parametric EQ looks like. And if I go to the group, I'm sending the wireless microphone, because you can see I have it turned on, I'm sending that to group 3 and 4. Okay, and so group 3 and 4, if I click on its main, it has its own graphic EQ right there. Okay, so that's what's great about a mixer like this, is that you have basically the ultimate control over everything. That's why I said, like, if I could give one of these to all of you, like, so many problems would be solved if you had that. Now, the last thing that I wanted to mention is the custom layers down here on the left-hand side. So custom layers, I'll click left and right up in the top. It allows you to create a custom screen. So I don't have to be looking, if I click on inputs, I don't have to be looking at all of these unused channels that I'm not using. I can just look at the channels that I am using. So it just makes your screen less cluttered. And then I have a mute group all set up right here, so I can mute everything all at the same time. So at the end of the gig, I'll mute everything, I'll shut everything down, and then I'll turn my speakers off so that way you don't get any pops. So this is the screen that I'm looking at usually, and I'll usually click on the sub, and I'll usually click on the compressor for the sub, because that's usually the thing that I want to be monitoring the most for my gig. I just want to keep an eye on the sub. That's usually what's getting hit hard. I want to make sure that the limiter is not getting hit overly hard. So yeah, so that is the QU-PAC and using a digital mixer. I hope that made sense. I know this is a long video and there's a lot to it, but like I said, once you have it set up the first time, and if I had somebody that like walked me through it like this would be great. it's quite easy to learn. You just figure your way around it and you figure out what to press and how to press it. It's really not that difficult, and you get fast at it. I can go to a venue and I can take, like I said, 2 or 3 minutes and dial in the sound of the speakers and then dial in the sound of the microphones if I have to make any changes to the microphones as well. 2, 3, 4 minutes at max. So it really doesn't take up a lot of time. They aren't cheap, brand new, they're $2,000. You can find them on eBay for maybe $1,300, $1,400, and then like I said, you have to get the case for it, and then you also have to get an Airport Express for it. So it does cost, but I'm telling you, it has completely and utterly changed my life in terms of my DJ gigs and having the absolute utmost control over how good my sound system can sound. And it's really great once you go down this road. Hope that helps.